Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, sharing valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. And now, here is your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey everyone, Rob Stanley here with my amazing host, Lisa Kinski. And we're trying to get our new intro. We're working on our new intro, so it has
working on it, man.
Right?
Probably be able to get that done after we get back from like all the shows and stuff. I think there's gonna need
lots
to
of
be
travel.
like
Crazy amount of travel.
That's a plain task.
For sure. So Lisa, we have a good one today. We're going to be talking about how to optimize international shipping costs for Amazon. Shipping is such a big thing. I mean, seriously, there's a lot involved in shipping, a lot of ways to come out of pocket even, it can be very expensive if it's not done right. And we have somebody who's absolutely incredible at that. And it will help everybody with mastering kind of some tips and tricks and things to help with shipping costs. We're going to bring into the studio Burak Yolga from Forceget. Hey, Burak, how you doing?
Hey,
guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Let's get you in the main spotlight there. So we're going to be talking today about how to optimize international shipping costs for Amazon. And we're going to kind of just jump right into it. We'll love to hear more about Forceget and what you guys do at the end, but let's get right into it so everybody can get some information on these tips. So what should Amazon sellers to avoid being out of stock? Like that's like a big thing, right? It's like keeping that inventory level correct, but you don't want to be over ordering, but you don't want to run out. So what's some tips you can give on that?
Oh man, I was hoping you're gonna start from
that a whole episode?
Easier, yeah. you're right.
All right, how about this? Just give the highlights, the top tips.
Where to start? Like 2020, 2021. Like finally we made it to 2022. Things were like extremely difficult for last year for everyone. Sellers, I think even Amazon, freight forwarders, with the price increases. The availability space problem, the supply the demand was like so high that supply couldn't actually catch up. Now we see like opposite with the inflation. Obviously, inflation worldwide is like increasing. Even in US, I think the highest from 1980s. It's the highest numbers like in the numbers are like shown by the government is like 9-10%, but I think we feel it like almost 30-40%. So that's affecting obviously the end users like household to like their purchase abilities, and obviously that's causing the sellers a lot of like ups and downs. A lot of people, they complain that they're doing like less money, less sales compared to last year because all the retailers are back. They run a lot of big campaigns because they're trying to recover from the loss that they had from the 2020-21 when the shops were closed like really long time. So long story short, I think when we're looking at the big picture, things are getting better with the container prices, especially and the availability from China time. From last year, this year, I think we were like people were paying like $14,000 to $15,000 for a container price all the way from China to Los Angeles port. Now it's like down to $7,000 around. And the East Coast, like last year we saw like $25,000, which was insane for New York. Now it's like roughly around like $10,000 ish. So in these circumstances, I think we're expecting probably the inflation going a little bit lower. We're expecting the buyers are gonna be spending a little bit more money, hopefully in next couple of months, especially with the fourth quarter coming in. I know that a lot of sellers are really excited to do that. So when you look at the container prices, it's like going down, but I think the last year it was like absolutely like organic situation. It was like absolute like supply and demand issue. This year we see a lot of like external factors such as like strikes at the ports. I'm sure you guys like hear about that. The Los Angeles port had been like congested almost with a backlog of like 2-3 months. It was like insane. People don't see their containers after shipments for 4 months. Production time went from 1 month to 2 months almost due to the like raw material shortage, and especially in Southeast Asia, mainly in China. Private label sellers are mostly sourcing from China. Even if there was like a high tax, with the Trump 25%, a lot of Chinese product hit by. So basically from there, coming back to here, now things are like a little bit with the external facts, such as like, the situation, what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, Taiwan and China. Obviously, we're not here to talk about politics, but obviously it's affecting, the supply chain issues. And last 2-3 weeks, we had a lot of problem with one of the major ports in San Francisco, Oakland, with the trucker strike, because basically they had very long waiting times at the ports. They had a lot of gas price, like diesel price increase almost 40% in the US. Tanks gas going down a little bit. So sometimes truckers could make only one route in a day, or maybe they wait in the line 10 hours, but they could not pick up any container. They had to go back. So basically those people, they have like really tough circumstances. They work in a very difficult environment. And looking at that, adding up that 1 week strike in Oakland port, like really affected everything. So we have like a lot of containers waiting to be picked up, and terminals and not allowing, it's not getting available. So these kind of things probably is going to continue this year and next year as well. But there's one thing I think bright is the prices are just getting a little bit better.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot going on in this world, and it's funny because if people don't know, I live in California, and I'm actually not that far from Oakland, and I'm always flying up and down the coast. And man, when I was down by Long Beach area where the port is there, anytime you're flying over that area, there's just speckles of ships out there everywhere, right? I mean, there's just everywhere out there. And it's definitely a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. So let me ask this. We actually, Lisa and I and Yoni just did this really long, cool seminar that we sort of did on refunds and stuff. And one of the things I covered, and maybe this will be a good tip for some people, is, how important is it, Burak, that people pay attention to the way that they package the stuff, the thickness of the cardboard, because a lot of that can add up at the factory before you even get it on a shipping container. There's times I remember being at factories and we would get stuff in when I was selling, and it was like, oh my God, they use this really, like 1 inch cardboard stuff. And I get it's kind of breakable, but did we need 1 inch? And maybe it wasn't quite 1 inch, but you know what I mean? And it was like, we could get away with a thinner one. Well, you start adding up a 40-foot container with all these packages in there that are thick, you start knocking that down by a little. Now you're maybe fitting extra units in there.
Yes.
We always give the example of the inflated soccer ball, right? Like, don't ship it inflated, deflate it, put it in a box.
Absolutely.
So what kind of things do you see like that maybe you could help people with, that maybe are some little extra tips when it comes to shipping and kind of, I'm not gonna say cutting corners, but it's saving money.
Absolutely. Maximizing your space.
I mean, I think the number one is a lot of people, that's the one thing. If you are shipping like floor load container, it means they're not palletized. I highly recommend people not to palletize their product. Some people, they think that it's just easier for Amazon to unloading, or if they can't ship to Amazon even. That's another thing, like Rob, we're talking about delivering to Amazon, but a lot of people, they still have like limit problems. So they work with the 3PLs. And like, California, we cannot even, we have 2 locations in California, 30,000 square feet in San Francisco, 25,000 square feet in Los Angeles. Like grade B empty pallet, was almost $18. It's in the black market. And, it's just insane. And then companies used to ship those products, it was so cheap, the shipping, they used to ship it, the empty pallet, from China. Now they made it in US, or they tried to given UPS or FedEx drivers to just bring back empty pallets. So I don't want to jump from topic to topic, but today we had just one update. Amazon fulfillment centers are almost giving the appointment 1 month from now on for the full container. So a friend of mine reached out to me today, and he told me he had a shipment 3 months ago. He did with a different freight forwarder, and they're trying to make the appointment today. And the first available date is in September. So it means that Amazon is start getting really busy before the fourth quarter. So people really need to plan this. So imagine, Rob, you have a full container had to be sitting in a storage in a trucker's yard, which is going to cost you almost $10,000, because if you don't return an empty container back to the port within 4 to 5 business days, every day the port is charging you, actually the shipping line is charging you per DM, which is like not returning back the container, like $400, $500. If you don't return the container back, it makes it like $10,000 only keeping the store, like keeping the container in the storage yard. And truckers, like you're charging like chassis, which is like $50 to $60 a day. You're charging a storage fee like $50 to $60. So it adds up. If you want to put that product, like unload it to a 3PL and now put it in the truck back in the storage, it costs another $6,000, $7,000. So when you're talking about saving those costs, like, with the carton fees, the palletized loadings, I 100% agree. People should be looking into those details like really closer. But more importantly, they really need to be very close relationship with their freight forwarder and get the update. We had one, we have one customer, I really love her. They're great. They're doing great in Canada. It's called Kind Laundry. They're doing like amazing stuff in Canada and environmental product, especially they're invited by the Amazon. Hopefully she was not going to be angry to tell it their name, but they're like very successful. And we have like the issues, obviously shipping to products to Canada, US, other marketplace. And she reached out to me a couple of days ago and say, hey, which port do you think we should go with? Auckland or Los Angeles, or maybe something even, let's try something else, Houston. So what I'm trying to say is, like, long story short, people should be staying on top of the industry news. Like 3 years ago, no one had to do these kind of things. But today, everything matters now, like production time. I kind of feel like I didn't answer your first question, how people can save money, how they don't over order or they don't have the shortage of the fourth quarter. It's like really important to optimize. And that's what matters now, is like, it's really getting important, supply chain, the digitalization, which I'm sure you guys hearing a lot in the different events, different even industries. Like one of the biggest topic is like the digitalization. And international logistic, why it's so important is to track which shipping line is delivering the product in how many days, which seaport has the backlog, or it takes how many days the terminal to become available at each time of the year, taking all these like data, taking in the back end, and I start giving a recommendation to the retailers, the brands. Selling on Amazon is not that easy anymore. A lot of people, I see the courses like saying that, start making $30,000 in a month. But what about the advertisement costs? What about the 3PL costs? What about this and that? You guys been doing this, like you're in this business, like this industry, really long time, both Lisa and you. Me, myself, I lived in China 8 years, probably doing business like 12 years. I've done so many good and bad decisions in my life of the business. But I think what matters is to break down every step in your business. People spend a lot of time with understanding, learning the keyword research, the search volume versus how it's working with, how it's connecting with the sales numbers, the PPC. But when it comes to the international logistics, I really feel a lot of people, they underestimate what's going on with the situation. And then eventually it's going to be their cash tied up, maybe it's 4 to 6 weeks if they don't make the right decision, or if they don't ask the right questions to their freight forwarders. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, that's good information. And you did answer the question, by the way. And because really, to be honest, all the information you're giving is information that people need to know regarding shipping and using it to be able to save some money. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in about 14 seconds.
Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah, so be sure to head on over to GETIDA.com/Sellernomics. Get your $400 in free FBA reimbursements. So I've got Burak Yolga on from Forceget. We're talking about how to optimize international shipping costs for Amazon. And I think you had a question, Lisa, that we're going to go ahead.
Yeah, I do, for sure. So you had mentioned something earlier, Burak, about people kind of underestimating international shipping and kind of what all is involved in it. And I think something that would be good to cover is the different, ways that you can ship your goods, not even just like air versus sea, which is better, but like FOB versus DDP, kind of breaking that down of what's going to be the best option for sellers. Because I think not only us underestimating it is a problem, but lack of education is also an issue, right?
Absolutely.
People just don't understand.
Absolutely. I think, like, before dive into that, I highly recommend people, if they did not place their 4-quarter order, I think they really need to do it right now. Like, I think like right now. It's really
You're going to
important.
miss the window here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because we see, like, because of last week, the China ports, most of the shipping lines delayed almost like 2 weeks due to, you know, what's going on between China and Taiwan. Because most of those seaports, like, you know, Ningbo, Shanghai, Shenzhen, like Yantian port, they're also same times like the Navy, Chinese Navy is using it. So there has been like a lot of delay. So I think by the end of the year, I'm expecting more. I don't want to sound like they're like bad news, but there might be like more introductions. There will be like more issues maybe between, you know, China and US. And the production time, we hear a lot of news from the Chinese suppliers, manufacturers, that the shortage continues. And, you know, especially people who do like, you know, electronic products, the 70% of the chips are actually made in Taiwan. So even Apple come up with like new solutions. So that's something the 4th quarter, people should be really careful. Right after the 4th quarter, end of January, there will be Chinese New Year coming. So planning the inventory is like the key, I think, success to catch up with that. So when it comes to, you know, the DDP and FOB, I think one of the first, most important, I think the tip here is like not to use the supplier's freight forwarder. The lack of communication, the lack of understanding the time difference, where people's are shipments. We have like a couple of friends, I heard that their shipment is closed due to the 90 days window. The Amazon, you know, deactivate the shipments, and because of the freight forwarder didn't make the appointment in advance. So basically, the customer relabel everything. So full containers, like they're gonna cost like $68,000. So these kind of things are like very important. So I think number one is to choose the right freight forwarder, and then make sure that the communication is like the key. So when it comes to the FOB and DDP, if there's like a full container shipment opportunity, people really need to go with the FOB term, where they can have the full control and visibility with the, you know, entry summary, especially for US. For European market, I highly recommend to check out the train option, especially if you're sourcing from China. That's like has been like really stable option for European market, especially like the timeline, as well as the transit time. It's been very stable. So that could be like a really good option. I know that a lot of people, they're thinking about like global expansion. You know, with the aggregators are in the market like dominating, it's becoming like more and more important for brands to have the access of different marketplaces. I think that could be like a really good option for the next year if people think that the market is shrinking for them due to the inflation in one marketplace. Expanding to different marketplaces, I think, is important. When it comes to the DDP, I think between the FOB and DDP, small shipments like the new sellers could be like a good option for DDP. That's like hands-free, sort of like freight forwarder is handling everything, but it's really important to understand which HS code it's being used for the custom clearance. As all of you know, the HS code is actually same in every single marketplace. So it doesn't matter if the origin is China, origin is Korea, or you purchase like pet items made in the US and you want to ship that to UK or Europe, the HS code is globally is the same, defines the name of the product. You know, a lot of people also don't know that same type of product might have multiple HS codes. And it depends on the circumstances. Some situations, the same product could be up to 25% tax and duty. In some circumstances, it could be like 7.5. Same product could have like multiple HS codes. So I highly recommend to check out with your supplier if the product you order, you sell, has only one HS code or multiple HS codes, and then confirm that with your freight forwarder. These kind of things could actually help to save money, but more importantly, have the control of its shipments.
Awesome.
I got a question for
fantastic.
you. Yeah, no, that was great information. I was just thinking about kind of under what circumstances would you recommend people using air freight? Because obviously you can get over here faster. but would you use those maybe in a situation of maybe making sure you stay in stock? Or what about if the products you sell are really tiny? You obviously don't want to put those on a ship, type of thing, or even they're going to end up in a container, mixed container or something like that. Right. So what kind of advice can you give on using air shipping and when's the right time?
It depends on really the situation. Normally, I don't like people who answer that way to a question like it depends. But one of the, I think, most economic way, if you're selling like an item between like less than a pound, less than like a half kilogram, could be like really suitable for air, unless it's like, DG cargo or maybe beauty or cosmetic or like liquid, it's getting like really expensive. I actually think that if you don't want to be affected from the entire ocean freight delays, it could be like good idea to ship maybe 10 to 15% your entire shipment by air and the rest of by sea. So this way you can actually take the average between the sea and air. You can kind of balance it up the cost wise, so it's not going to increase too much the landing price per unit. And the same time, in case there's like something big happens, you never run out of stock and you can play around with your PPC instead of like shut down the entire like PPC. You can maybe lower the daily budget. You can lower the CPC, and this way, like your campaigns keep running, and Amazon doesn't like really get alert like what's going on with this listing. He shut down everything. He's like running low inventory, and especially if you do that right before the Q4 or even Christmas, if you're a seasonal product, that's the last thing you want to do, because when you turn on back things, Amazon is not gonna like detect it so fast, and there'll be like competitors who's looking forward to like get your position. So I think that could be like number one option instead of shipping everything. So it could be like good plan B option. The new launch, we see that sometimes people, before they launch a new product, instead of shipping everything in one time and like losing the honeymoon period, the reviews are like really important. People try to get like a PPC running, get like maybe 10 to 15% product. They ship it by air, they check in. And another thing, like a lot of people are missing actually, Rob and Lisa, people don't understand. Once the shipment is delivered to Amazon, they think that they're going to be fully in inventory, but it takes 2 to 3 weeks to be entire shipment to be checked in, transfer between the fulfillment centers. The best way to understand that, if people don't know what I'm talking about, if people can go to their manage inventory and click on the shipping queue, they can see, and then when they click on the active inventory, the number of units that they're in stock, they can see how many products are FC process or FC transfer. The FC process means like the fulfillment center processing it, and FC transfer, that the items are transferred between the fulfillment center, because the way people purchase as a buyer, if you order something, if it's Prime, the way it could be delivered to you within 1 day, and it's such a big country in US, it needs to be in different part of the places, different part of the states, in multiple fulfillment centers. So this way it can be delivered within one business day. So that's why it's really important, once the shipment is checked in, it doesn't mean that your inventory will be fully in stock. So still be careful when you try to be aggressive with your PPC. Make sure you understand how many units are actually sellable and how many items will be sellable within how many days. That's really important.
I have a history question, because I kind of joined the industry in the height of the pandemic, if you will, in July of 2020. So I know nothing other than chaos. But has there always been that 2 to 3 week delay from product getting sent, like delivered at Amazon fulfillment, and then it finally getting checked in? Has there always been that delay, or did it used to be faster?
No, like it was faster. Like we didn't have any of these problems before the pandemic started. And when the pandemic hit for the first time, Amazon actually stopped accepting like regular products. It was all about like baby products, maybe the face masks, or like some emergency, or like toilet papers, essential items.
Yeah.
And it took probably 2 to 4 months, roughly, if I'm not at least it took 2 months. I'm 100% sure.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of clients. Amazon actually even delayed shipping the items. I had a friend selling some wedding items, like suddenly weddings stop. But even if he had an order, Amazon did not put that on priority. Amazon pushed it back like 2-3 weeks shipping time. So not only you could not send product in, even if you had like active inventory, you couldn't ship them. I mean, Amazon couldn't ship them. So I know that a lot of people, they actually created like removal orders and they start doing FBM, So it hasn't been like that, but things change a lot. And then Amazon bring this new algorithm and API score thing, the health accounting, like they come up with like new solutions. And I remember they were hiring probably every day, if I'm not mistaken, like almost 2,000 people. It was insane. Like they're like keep start opening up like new fulfillment centers, and probably Rob, you remember Amazon keeps sending emails every 2-3 months. Hey, we need to increase our FBA fees because we're investing like $10 billion, $20 billion, and every month like people start getting this kind of email. Like, okay, but like, isn't it like supposed to be like your party investment? Why are you charging sellers? And I mean, I don't want Amazon to come after me or something, but that was the situation. So it continues there. We see a lot of like ups and downs in the industry, but still, I think they cannot handle the entire check-in process the way it should be. Again, like they only allowing you to send in a full container a month from now on. That's crazy. Yeah. Like people, if they didn't make appointment in advance, then they need to sit with like a full container somewhere in like some 3PLs, which is going to cost them $8,000 to $10,000, like unexpected, like cost expenses. And a lot of people probably have maybe that amount of money, maybe profit. So it could be like no profit per shipment, Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back though, I want to talk to you a little bit about, there's a lot of things I've been reading just recently about Amazon either stop building some more warehouses or they're getting out of different ones. We're going to talk a little bit about that right after this break.
Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning just before the break, and be sure to head over to GETIDA.com/Sellernomics to get your $400 in FBA reimbursements. But right before the break, I was mentioning that there's a lot in the news and a lot of things I've been reading about either Amazon, was in the middle of building these warehouses, they stopped, or they were going to make commitments, and then now they're closing some of them. So how do you think that's going to kind of affect the rest of this year, 2022, and then also going into 2023 with some of that stuff going on, Burak?
Amazon also had a lot of stuff internally happening. I mean, you mentioned that you live in California. I'm sure you hear a lot. The situation with like unions, the strikes, those kind of things are always affecting. And Amazon is trying to automate a lot of different things because the cost of hiring people or like managing people is really not that easy. But obviously, that's a different part of the topic. But when it comes to actually, I think Amazon is also aware of how Walmart is aggressively entering the market. Like, probably, I don't know how many Walmart stores in the US, probably 10,000, 12,000, roughly, versus Amazon. I think has. Yeah, I think Amazon has like 110 to 100. I'm gonna go with like 15,000, Lisa. And most of the places they have probably in every 3 miles radius they have a Walmart. So Amazon, purchased. They merged with like Whole Foods. What's the result?
So what was your guess again? Number of Walmart stores in the U.S.
15,000.
15,000. Rob, what's your guess?
I think it's going to be higher than that, because there's also little smaller Walmarts, not the full size necessarily stores.
Oh, like the neighborhood markets and stuff.
Yeah.
As of January 31st, 2022, they had 4,742 stores throughout the states. So
I went a little high.
Interesting.
Throughout the states.
Now throughout the US. Now throughout the world, there's about 11,000. So it's closer to that global number.
I thought there'd be more, but
probably they also
so too.
Okay.
But that's
but versus Amazon, But versus Amazon has like 110 to 120 fulfillment center probably.
Let me look that up.
So we're gonna Google that too, but keep going.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's one thing, and the cost of like running like 3PL is really expensive actually, Rob. Like, I know from internal, the softwares, the investments, it's really not that easy. So I think Amazon they're trying to change the game a little bit, and then I start like I was ordering some stuff and I start seeing like same day delivery, because there are a lot of like small delivery companies. Even one of the Turkish ones called GETIDA, they reached out like $500 million market value. They started like a small business in Turkey. Then they entered European market like Germany, France, and like Netherlands, Holland, and then they came to US. And there are a lot of like small companies, they start delivering like 2 hours or like 1 hour and 30 minutes. So it's like a really big challenge for an Amazon. And such a big company, I think it's really difficult to change or from switching from such a like a unique business model, like Prime in a day, 24 hours the delivery. Now they're trying to do like much faster deliveries. I think it's a really huge challenge. And most of us actually know that Amazon is not making, actually Amazon losing money from their daily operation. They're making money from different services, like from the video service maybe, or like servers or advertisement or other things. So actually Amazon is like losing money on this. So I think there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scene that a lot of sellers, they're aware of, like seller central support, what's going on with the supply chain issues within the Amazon, all these delays, like losing the products thanks to GETIDA, collecting billions of dollars. So I think Amazon has like a big challenge this year and next year with their business, and then they just declared like $2 billion lost, I think. So that was like a big thing,
Yeah. And to circle back on the number of distribution centers Amazon has, as of January of this year, they had 1,137 with plans to open 331 more. So
but I think that must include not the main fulfillment centers. That must include maybe probably other locations. The main fulfillment center, I think something around like 110 to 120. But anyway, still like, there are a lot of challenges, I think, for Amazon, for sellers, for service providers.
Yeah, Burak, I know this question isn't totally on topic with shipping cost, but I kind of want to get your feel on, with the whole relationship issue going between the US and China right now, and then China also with Taiwan. Do you think that Amazon sellers should be looking at maybe, I know this isn't necessarily your specialty as sourcing, but should they be looking at maybe some manufacturing in Mexico or India? And then how is shipping with those? Like, are you going to run into some issues, let's say from India, because maybe there's not enough containers coming over? And of course, with Mexico, we had Amy on, and she talked about, literally throwing it on a truck and bringing it up. But what kind of, have you seen some shifts kind of going that way, just in case something does happen and all of a sudden the US decides to, put embargoes or cut off China items coming in? Are you kind of seeing that happen?
It's really interesting question, because I think I will see in a couple of days in $1 Billion Seller Summit. And then I will be like talking in that event regarding this. This has been going on like for a while, like Mexico, the India, the other marketplaces, but it's not a new thing actually. This started when we had the extra China tariffs. And the first companies who realized this was actually the Chinese manufacturers. 4 years ago, I moved to US, and before that I lived in China and Hong Kong. And the best time of the year for me was like every April and October to go to Hong Kong Electronic Fair, Canton Fair. And I start seeing all these manufacturers like advertisement about the manufacturing plant in Vietnam, in Cambodia. So the first companies who realized that, Malaysia, who realized that the Chinese manufacturers, when they saw this tariff, they're like, oh wow, actually the buyers might go and look for a product in different marketplaces. However, even if that kind of become like a hot topic back then, I'm talking about like 3-4 years ago, none of those countries, I think, can compete with China, because we were comparing an ocean freight versus a full truckload from Mexico to US. We were shipping, and one of our customers, they have both like suppliers in both countries, and it was going to the Kansas City. So a full truckload from Mexico to Kansas City is around like $9,000. So it's not that cheap actually. And the custom procedures, the time frame, it's also not like that great. And China has a type of products that you can find any type of category, any type of product. They're the all-star. Like all these countries like Mexico, India, they're like the rookies, if you like the NBA, the basketball. So comparison is like, it's hard to compete. And let's say, Rob, I mean, I'm sure you've probably been to Mexico for a vacation. You see like all the souvenirs and everything, and you see that it's made in China. It's strange. Yeah. Like, the country, like, they're like most of the time like handmade stuff. I really like chess. And then you can see maybe a chessboard behind me. Mm-hmm. I was going to buy that. And I was like, hey, guys, do you have like, all this authentic stuff? They're like, oh, no, we don't have that. We have the regular. I was like, you look at it made in China. Like, why don't you guys make something here? India is like similar. India is like huge potential, but like most of the products, like maybe household items, like the textile items. And let's say you're buying a product from Mexico and you go and then you make it, you sell baby products and textile, you source from Mexico, right? I've done sourcing almost 8 years in China. And then you ask for a manufacturer in Mexico, you made an agreement, let's say with Target or Walmart or Bed & Beyond. And then they're asking you, okay, can you supply me 200,000 units extra year while you were actually supplying them 50,000? If you ask that to a Chinese manufacturer, they're probably going to get the plant ready within 2 weeks and they're ready to produce. If you ask for like a manufacturer in Mexico, they probably need to go and order the machinery, the machines, the production machines from China first to get the ready, and the raw material will be coming from different marketplaces. I think you see where I'm going with this. China is already an independent country. Whatever you need, like the packing, raw material, the equipment or spare parts, everything is ready, heavy equipment. I think Mexico is like kind of people want to start sourcing things from US or local market or Europe. If you're a European market, I think Turkey, Bulgaria, like maybe Poland is like great countries to Romania for like great countries to source products because you can deliver it by the truck. But I don't see yet all those countries like Vietnam, India, like shipping from India is like extremely expensive. The local charges are extremely expensive. Right now, like what is it, like August now, 2022, a full container from India is still like $14,000 to $15,000 to East Coast versus $9,000, $10,000 from China. So if you want to look for different marketplaces, definitely have plan B. I really don't think that US is going to have an embargo to China because China is the largest importer for US market. I don't think that's going to happen. I hope it's not going to happen because, all of the people in the world, like now they're like, stressed about like the supply chain, the food crisis because what's going on between Ukraine and Russia. But I think it's like that's like a very rare possibility what's going to happen between China and US. But other marketplaces, they still have way to go. And the industries, maybe specific industries like textile, could be like Pakistan, India, Turkey. It could be like a really great opportunity, but not everything. China still will be very strong, and Chinese government is aware of that, and they're trying to keep RMB, yuan very strong, which is a little bit, I think, politic. It's not like, I don't want to say it's not free economy, obviously, like supply and demand affecting, but I think Chinese RMB should be getting a little bit more like loosen up.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just gonna field one more question at you, then we're gonna wrap up so people can learn more about Forceget. But if you could just kind of, and I'm sure there's a lot of these, but a lot of answers to this. But what are some of the like common mistakes sellers have when they're working with freight forwarders? And like I said, I'm sure that list is long, but if you could just give us some of the more standard ones that they run into or you see more often happen.
Right. Probably the major thing is like they're asking about like the delivery times, but most of the time the freight forwarders are only offering them like the transit time. So actually, I I'm actually starting my YouTube channel. It's called FBA Shipping King. I hope you guys will be okay. Like a little bit of advertisement.
Oh, we'll put
sure,
a
go
link
for it.
down there for you.
One of the first videos, like international shipping is explained. So a lot of people, they think that we pick up the shipment today from a manufacturer, let's say in Ningbo, and they think that the shipment is going to depart tomorrow. But it takes almost 7 to 10 days from the time the shipment picks up, arrives to the port, the custom clearance document needed, and those massive cargo ships needs at least 3 to 4 days to be loaded with all those containers. So it's taking like 10 days at least from the day the shipment is picked up until it departs. And then we're talking about like port to port delivery time. Most of the time, the Chinese freight forwarders in China, they say, okay, it's 30, 35 days, but then they mention only like the shipping time. And then the transit time is important. The second thing is the routing. Like there are a lot of direct shipping lines, indirect shipping lines. Some of them stops over in big ports, like in Korea, or like if you ship into, let's say, Savannah Port or Seattle, they mainly stops over in Los Angeles, let's say, it transfers. So if you don't avoid this congestion like 3 months, what's the reason? So I think the first thing will be asking about like the transit time, asking about the name of the shipping line and the routing. So instead of everybody's asking, oh, what's the delivery time? Everyone's saying, oh, it's 30, 35 days. Okay, how much? This much. Okay, perfect. Let's ship it. I think they should be like asking more questions, the delivery time, but more specific, like the name of the shipping line, the departure, how is the congestion at the port. I think industrial news, especially if you're like a big seller, 7-8 figure sellers, definitely check out like the monthly or weekly news, what's going on with the ports. I think these are the most important mistakes that people are making.
Yeah. No,
awesome.
I agree with that.
Thank you for that.
Yep. So why don't you tell everybody a bit about Forceget, and then let's also mention how they get a hold of you if they want to contact you. Absolutely. Or more about the company. Go ahead.
So I actually lived in China, as I mentioned, 8 years, and been in Miami 4 years now. We have 6 physical offices around the globe, and we are the only Amazon FBA logistic company with NVOCC license, as well as digital platform where people can track their shipments online. As I mentioned, like digitalization and like visibility is the key success, key factor to the success, I think. And I think one thing is, me as a white Goran, in Chinese means like, foreigner, understanding the expectation of like the foreigners, as I was the middleman, like, one man show actually, like run around sourcing, shipping products. It's really important, the communication. So we do really care about like our customers. Like we're offering a boutique service. We basically do air sea shipments all around the world, 3PL storage, the truck deliveries like LTL, FTL for cross borders. So basically we're a full freight forwarder with the capacity to understand the e-commerce, Amazon and Walmart systems that make the deliveries on time. And if they want to reach out, always visit the forceget.com or sales@forceget.com, the best way.
Yeah. So awesome. Forceget.com, FORCEGET.com for those who are listening, just in case you're not seeing the visuals that I have up on the screen. So yeah, be sure to visit Forceget.com. And Burak, it was great having you on. That was a lot of really good information. Let me tell you. So much. And definitely 100%. Appreciate it. Yeah, Lisa, that was really good. And I'll be seeing you next week, obviously, hopefully, yeah. At $1 Billion Seller Summit. We had Kevin on a couple weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, be sure everybody to head on over to forceget.com, or if you have a question that maybe didn't get answered or you're watching the show after, you can always email sales@forceget.com. And Burak, thanks again for being on the show and providing some great information. That was absolutely some great stuff. I definitely learned some new stuff from this. Thanks you so much.
I'm looking forward to see you in the next couple of events.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Burak.
Perfect.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, GETIDA. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.